We're here for it.
Woo! Welcome back, book babes. So we are flying through. We are on chapter 3, which is March, which is focusing on work. So as we've kind of done before, she bullet points the stuff that she wants to highlight the most. So number 1, we have launch a blog, enjoy the fun of failure, ask for help, work smart, and enjoy now.
I love that you say "ooh" because that's
Ooh,
what I felt too.
can already tell because it's just like little call outs like right on the side already. Because so starting off, I think this is just such a fun chapter for, like I was saying, for you and I, because our work situations are different. So I work full time outside of the house. I am a assistant manager at McDonald's, and you are a work at home mama.
Oh my gosh, and that's a journey. I started as a stay-at-home mom. Like I didn't even there was no plan to work at home, but then it kind of just when you get a God wink and something just falls into your lap, that's what happened. And then I found I am an Enneagram 3 and I love challenges. I love achievement. I love working hard. I'm a Ruby personality type. And so I realized like that piece, that fulfillment piece, like where she's talking about here, that work can make you happy. That's what I was missing. And so I was able to find something to work from home. And it was a game changer for my attitude, for my personality, for like the way that I just treated everyone around me, came into the world. It was everything. So I just love this chapter because it resonates so much with me. Like, mind blown.
Definitely. And I just think that work is work with purpose. I just think that they're so hand in hand. I just think that whether you are a stay-at-home mom, whether you are working outside of the house, whether you're doing part-time, a side hustle, whatever it is, I feel like it just adds some direction to life that keeps you accountable, that keeps you showing up, that keeps like you checking things where I need that direction in my life. I think that's something I have done the stay-at-home mom thing. I've gotten the privilege of doing not only like my maternity leaves, obviously, but I think I spent 3 months at home since I've been 18. And it was hard for me. I am just that person where I thrive on the schedule of showing up, and it's weird, but I thrive on the chaos. I kind of need that like hectic, the schedule, the balancing something. And it helps me show up so much better as a mom and a wife because I have another outlet that I don't have to be either of those things for.
Mm-hmm.
And that for me is why I continue to work, despite maybe not financially necessarily needing to, but it keeps my focus and my drive and reminding myself that I am bigger and I am more than just the mom and wife, because I get really wrapped up in those things.
I think that's just it right there. It gives you something outside of being a mom and a wife. Like you are your own person, right? Because when you go to work, it's not, hey mom, hey hun, like it's Hannah. Like that's who it is. You're here to stand. And I think like that's super powerful. It's like when you get lost in all of these labels of who you are, we forget who we once were or who we can be. And I think like that's kind of the premise of a lot of this chapter is just finding your happiness in that. And one thing that I really, really loved was where she talked about on page 71. She said passion was a critical factor in professional success. And I bring this to the attention because the next part I highlighted, it says people who love their work bring an intensity and enthusiasm that's impossible to match through sheer diligence. And I think that's just it. What you were saying about purpose behind work, you can be a hard worker. I can be a hard worker in anything that I do, but there's a big difference in working hard and working hard with purpose, working hard with passion, working hard because you freaking love it. Like people can tell the difference in what you bring to the world. Let's raise our hands, right? Listeners, let's raise our hands if you've ever been in a job that you absolutely hated, but you showed up to go to work because you wanted to get your paycheck. Let's just think about it. How much of your heart did you actually bring to that, right? Like, were you giving it 100? I doubt it. And I love that she kind of says that little blurb here because I think it's super, super powerful. And it's, to me, a key to happiness because as a stay-at-home mom, when I lost that thing of of being able to work hard, thing of something outside of who I was, it was devastating because I literally lost all sense of who I was. But finding something that allowed me to still be at home but have that purpose to work hard with enthusiasm, that's been everything for me.
I 100% agree. And I love that when she talks right away in the launch the blog, she says the brain is stimulated by surprise, and successfully dealing with an unexpected situation gives a powerful sense of satisfaction. If you do new things, visit a museum for the first time, learn a new game, travel to a new place, meet new people, you're more apt to feel happy than people who stick to more familiar activities. And I think that really touches so much on what you were saying about, the challenges of being a stay-at-home mom alone, because you do get wrapped up in the same routines every day. You're seeing the same things. You're not stimulating that part of your brain that really thrives on being challenged and stepping up. And I think that opening up that conversation and realizing that, like, stay-at-home moms need that stimulate. Your brain needs that stimulation, and stay-at-home dads too. Your brain is not meant to stay in one spot and be unstimulated and do the same thing over and over again. And I love how she instantly touches on that, and then just kind of stays tactical about, it doesn't mean that you need to go and find your next college course and you need to go and get your degree and you need to go get this job right then and there, but it's, what are you working towards that you can do, like the side hustle, or like she says, launching a blog. What is something that you can share, that you have knowledge for and can share it?
It brings you joy and it like fills your cup. And I thought that was super powerful, because I'm the person, I'm not good at having fun, right? And we kind of get to dive into this as we go into the Enjoy Now chapters, but I'm not good at having fun. I'm not good at all that business. Like, I love to work hard, and I love to work hard because the way that I was raised, I don't know, like, it kind of gives me that feeling of worthiness. But in here, she said a lot of the things is, I have no idea who I wish I were, and that obscures my understanding of who I actually am. And I think that's what so many women, moms, people struggle with, because they think, hey, I have to be this person. This is who I'm supposed to be, right? Who I wish I were. Like, you dream of, like, oh my gosh, if I could be a better mom, if I could be a better wife, if I could be a better whatever it is, who I wish I were, but you're too stuck because you don't really know who you actually are. And maybe that person who you wish you were is nothing like the true you, right? We want to show up as someone else to please other people, to impress other people, to keep up with the Joneses, whatever that is. And they're two different worlds. So our mind is like fighting itself, right? Because we want to be this person, but the truth of the matter is we don't want to be this person. So we don't actually want to take those steps. We don't make those changes. And I think that that's super powerful when you can recognize, hey, what do I want? What's me, right? Like, her rule, be Gretchen, like, it's really there, like, be you when you're trying to discover this.
Yes, I love, oh my gosh, I never even thought about that, but that is so true. And I think a lot of the times is you see people that are happy, you see people that are like loving their job and they're showing up, and especially in the age of social media, because that is such a slippery slope of your highlight reel versus real life. So sometimes if you're scrolling, it's easy to get caught up in, oh my gosh, she's so happy. She is so patient with her kids. She's always taking pictures with her husband. What is she doing? And you try to do everything she's doing. And you're like, why am I not happy? Why is this not working? And it's because she already took the time. She already went through her failures and her trials and errors to find what makes her happy, what makes her show up as her best self. And that's not going to look the same from like myself to someone else, to you, to any of our other listeners. And I think that that's what's important is like, and it's just the reoccurring theme of the source of happiness is always going to be your own journey inside of you. And she talks in the Enjoy the Fun of Failure that between the ages of 20 and 40, we are engaged in the process of discovering who we are, which involves learning the difference between accidental limitations, which it is our duty to outgrow, and the necessary limitations, our natural beyond, which we cannot surpass with impunity. Mm-hmm. And between the ages of 20 and 40, I thought I was supposed to have all my life figured out way before this. I think at the age of 25, I started really panicking, like, what am I doing? Where am I going? I'm supposed to know what I want to do with the rest of my life, and I don't. And I think it was just like the kind of calm wave of, wait, maybe I'm not supposed to have this all figured out. Maybe I'm really in the process of figuring out what that looks like for me. What do I want to show up as? And I love that she talks about finding your limitations and which that you're not going to be able to overcome and which you can overcome. And I think that that was just my light bulb moment for sure.
Yeah, that's crazy powerful. And it's in that same little section, the enjoy the fun of failure. I think first, if there's other listeners like me, I love to be perfect. I love to do things the best, right? Perfectionism was a big struggle of mine, and it took me 5 years of really kind of learning that about myself to grow through it. But it got me to this place of recognizing that failure is not a bad thing. Failure is actually necessary for growth. It's necessary to get you to where you need to be. And one thing that really, really stuck out to me that she said was happiness doesn't always make you feel happy, which was kind of ironic because this whole book is the happiness project, right? The goal is to be happier. So what do you mean it doesn't feel happy? But that's the truth in growth, where she says growth makes us happy, but growth also equates to change. And in order to change, you're going to have to hit those pain points and you're going to have to learn from them. And I think that that's super important when you can learn from your failures. And so she says in here, to counteract this fear, I told myself, I enjoy the fun of failure. It's fun to fail, I keep repeating. It's part of being ambitious. It's part of being creative. If something is worth doing, it's worth doing badly. And I was like, oh, yes. We're too caught up in being perfect. We're too caught up in what we should be or who we should be or how we should act or what we should say that we don't just let it be. Like you give a piece of paper and some paint to a kid, like to a little kid, they're just going to go to town, right? They're going to create whatever it is they want. If you give it to an older age kid, they're going to be a little bit more worried about what comes out on that page. If you give it to an adult, they may be like, I don't even know where do I start? What do I do? Tell me how to do this, right? And I think that that is a part of growth. But when you can get back to understanding that it doesn't have to be perfect and it's okay to just go, even if you have no idea what to do, where to start, and you just try, you're going to learn something so new. And you might just learn something that you love. You might just learn that you're really good at something new. And I think that that was, for me, super, super huge because we all fear rejection. We all fear failure. But if we can understand that those are vital things in that stepping stone of growth, it's going to make us happier in the long run, because even though it doesn't feel happy now, it doesn't feel good, it's not warm and fuzzy, in the end, it gets us one step closer to who we are, true to ourselves.
So much, yes. And I, looking back, because hindsight is 2020. Growing up, I always felt that I just lacked something that I was extremely good at. I could do everything like mediocre. Some things I was maybe a little better than average, but I feel like I spent a lot of my time in like my teens and young adulthood trying to find that one thing that I was just gonna be naturally gifted at.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a long time to realize that the reason that I'm not necessarily in my brain good at one thing is because I don't actually take the time to dedicate myself to getting good at that one thing.
Ooh.
And that was a really hard lesson that I had to realize, because you just have to be afraid to suck. Because if you are not, and you don't trial and error, and you don't look to keep trying and show ways of how you can improve, it's not going to feel like you're moving anywhere, and you're not going to get better at it. And that was something that I realized, that if I wanted to get good at something, I can be good at anything. I can master anything, but it was going to take me going in, day out, and practicing and getting, the rhythm or the muscle memory or whatever it needed to be down before I would start seeing that potential. And it took me a long time to realize it.
I think that's freaking powerful, because so many people give up, stop, quit before they get good at that thing, right? Like we don't have patience. We live in an instant world. Everything about us, everything around us is like that. And so really taking the time to be patient and persist beyond the suck, right? Like to show up through that, not a lot of people do that, but I think it also kind of clears the air for what you're interested in and what you're committed to, because those are two completely different things. And I know this is a total sidebar and I could go on for days, but it really does make you like kind of gut check, like, okay, am I interested in this thing or am I committed? Because if you're committed, you're going to show up through the suck. You're going to last and you're going to stay consistent no matter what, no matter if it's hard, no matter if it takes years, you're going to show up for it because you were dedicated. You made that decision and you are following it through the end. And I think like that is super, super huge. Oh, love that.
Definitely. And I just cannot get enough of this chapter and just how she talks about finding like that work smart, like what are you going to work for? And I think a lot of the time we kind of get caught up in the, oh, well, I don't have time. And that's my excuse 100%. Like, oh, well, I'm busy. I have, 4 kids, I work. I don't have time to like fail at something. You know what I mean? I don't have time to trial and error. And she really talks about like auditing your time. Like, are there pockets of time that you're wasting? And I think that I think auditing your time is so important when you really break it down, and not just in your head, because you can tell yourself anything in your head, but writing it down just one day, kind of just like how sometimes when you budget, if you don't write it down and you're not seeing it, it's a lot harder to grasp. Whereas when you take your full day from the time that you typically wake up till the time you go to bed, and you write out every hour your previous engagements, like you have to drop the kids off at this time, that you work this amount of time to this amount of time. Where are those other hours? They're usually really funny places, like scrolling on social media or watching that Netflix show that you've already kind of watched maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 times. And I think it's important to be real with yourself in that moment of, am I saying I'm busy to make myself feel good, or am I actually busy? And I love that section in Work Smart, which makes you ask yourself that question. And it's such an important question to be asked.
Honestly, you're speaking right to my heart right now, because my mission, my vision is to help women take intentional action to create their dream life. And I think right there, everything that you said is so powerful. It's not that we're lazy. It's not that we're incapable. It's not that it's not possible. It's that we don't manage our time well. We get too caught up in the busy and the badge of busy, and it stops us. But one thing that I love to do, and you can try this maybe if it would be helpful for you, is I get a clock. It's a 24-hour clock, and I label it for each hour. And I do a self audit where I run down and say, okay, how did I spend my days today? And I will draw out the lines on the clock and I will color them in so I visually see them. I'm a visual learner, so seeing it in front of me, I'm like, okay, well, what's this? What's happening here? And then on the flip side, I don't sit in that shame. I just recognize it, acknowledge it, and then I try and move forward. And I create a game plan where I take another 24-hour clock and I paint the picture of what my ideal day would look like and what my hours are being spent on. And that right there, just owning your hours, owning your minutes, owning your pockets, that's powerful. Because instead of picking up your phone as soon as you wake up, no, wake up, do what you need to do. Then when you have time later, when it's not cutting into your morning routine, where it's not going to cause you to be anxious and stressed and yelling at your kids and rushing out the door, how much better is that going to feel? And I think like that right there was so powerful. Just being intentional in your time.
Yes. And you touching on, we're not saying you don't get scrolling and Netflix time, but when are you using it? Are you using it when you should be? Are you, taking that time for you as more of like a relaxing, things are done and I have this time? Or are you using it to avoid things that you should be doing? And I love that you talked about, going through and not scrolling on your phone first thing in the morning. I am guilty of that. So hard. And that's like the first thing I do. And I don't remember who the quote, but they talk, maybe it's even Mel Robbins. I'm pretty sure it might be Mel Robbins in the 5-second rule talks about the importance of starting your day for you and not other people. So if you're investing your time instantly, you wake up and the first thing you do is you jump on Instagram or you're jumping on Facebook, you are waking up and investing your time in other people. Whereas you should wake up and the first thing you should do is invest time in you.
Yeah.
And I think that that is so important, is just really carving out that time. So important.
Yeah, for sure. So the next little section that we have in this chapter is called Enjoy Now. And let me just say, my pages are filled with highlighters because this is something that I need to work on. And it's something that I've been trying to really focus on in the last quarter of this year, is really finding the fun and enjoying now. Because like I said, I'm the person, I can look ahead and it's easy for me to, okay, what's the next step? What's the next step? Where do I need to go? But if you're constantly say, I'll be happy when, I'll XYZ when, and you're waiting for when to arrive, you're not going to be able to enjoy the now. And what happens when the now disappears, right? You turn around and you're like, oh my gosh, where did all that time go? And so I thought that this was super, super, super important, because in here she said that in his book, The Happier, Tal, I don't know how to say his last name, describes the arrival fallacy, the belief that when you arrive at a certain destination, you'll be happy. But the truth is, once you get to that destination, if you're caught in that mindset, you're still going to be looking for the next best thing. You're still going to be looking for the next thing to grab. You're not going to be able to celebrate you. You're not going to be able to find the joy. You're going to miss out on everything that you let go by just because you're waiting to get to that point.
Yes. And I think that's just with any goal. I think that it's enjoying the process and what you did on the day in and the day out, and not that end goal, is the key to happiness. Because like you said, once you get there, you're just going to look for the next thing and you're going to be like, why is this not working? And it's because it was never about the goal. Anybody can set a goal, anybody can cross the finish line, but what did you do to get there is what builds you. If you don't recognize that, then you're just running the race for nothing, girls.
Preach it. What does it mean in your heart? Oh gosh, Hannah, hitting us with the feels. I love it. And I think like one that I have like highlighted and underlined and circled is that the fun part doesn't come later. Now is the fun part. And it's so easy. Like, I'm a mom, so I can compare this to my motherhood. Super, super easy, right? Like, I'm a mom doing dishes and doing this, and the kids are like, hey, mom, will you play this board game? Hey, mom, can we go outside? Hey, mom, can we go to the park? And I'm like, not right now. We have this to do. I have this to do. But I get so caught up in what I have to do that I forget that this is the time that matters most to them. And if I would just take an hour of intentional attention to them, they're going to feel 100 times better, and they're going to give me way more time afterwards to do whatever it is that I need to do. And so one of the promises that I'm making to myself is say yes to fun, because I really have to realize that now is the fun part. Now is the time that we get to celebrate. And going back a little bit in this chapter, something that kind of like punched me in the gut, but also had to do with the enjoy now, is she asked, what do I do in my spare time? And when she asked that, I was like, well, I work and I record podcasts and I work some more and I clean the house. And the thing is, I don't have spare time. Like, raise your hand. Who has spare time? That's not me. I don't have spare time. I could fill up my entire day with everything that I could do, right? But it's, again, with the intentional time, it's making sure I'm blocking off intentional time for me to enjoy the now, because I've already said I'm not good at that aspect. So what I have to do is make it be a priority in my life, make fun a priority, make sure that I'm taking time to have that spare time, because if it's not on your calendar, well, then guess what? You're not putting any energy into it. And it's like anybody's life. If you showed me the calendar of your last 30 days, I could tell you your priorities in life, right? Like, where your time is spent, that's your priorities. And we get caught up in showing up that we aren't showing up for the right priorities. And maybe it's the gut check for our listeners, that your spare time, taking care of your happiness, enjoying the now, that's all something that you have to focus on and you have to be intentional about, because it's not something that's just going to happen to you. what are your priorities? Where is your time being spent? Do they line up? Because if not, what has to change in order to make that happen, make that a reality?
Right. I love that she, on this last little part of the chapter, touches on the common belief that that happiness and ambition are incompatible. And it's kind of, it was the gut check, because I think sometimes it's easy to do the busy. It's easy to do the check marks. And it's easy to like say, oh, well, I'm doing this and I've, done the podcast. I've done my workouts. I've done all these things, but I'm not happy. But I'm doing all the things, so it's not me. And I think that I love that she talks about finding that line of like, there is happiness. And she talks about, for my own part, I feel more likely to take risks, reach out to others, and expose myself to rejection and failure when I felt happy. When I felt unhappy, I felt defensive, touchy, and me. Big me. And I think it's really just reminding yourself that there is joy in the process. There is joy that you can find in those actions and in that busy. That is the key to happiness. And it's not just filling your entire plate with all the things. It's what brings you joy in those things. And I think that was the good reminder that just because you fill your entire day with all the things that all the experts and all the studies and all the things tell you is going to work, if it's not making you happy, it's not working.
I have that spot highlighted too. And I have a spot up above that a little bit where it says, and I think it links perfectly to what you're saying, if I tried to do it a different way, I'd be inauthentic and fake. Might as well be Gretchen. And that speaks exactly to what you're saying. Like, we can try and do what everyone else is doing. We can try and show up exactly how they are, live their life because it looks beautiful to us. But if we're not doing it our way, if we're not finding our path, if we're not climbing our mountains, then it's never going to feel right because it's not me.
Love it. And I think that's just such like a good end cap, is like, might as well be Hannah, might as well be Deidra, might as well be insert your name here. I love that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for kind of like a synopsis of aim higher, it's all about aiming higher. Yes, work for those big goals. Yes, work your ass off, but do it in a way that's going to fill your cup. Do it in a way where you're not sacrificing, the hours for your priorities, right? You're not killing yourself, hustling so hard that you lose sight of what really matters.
And to really enjoy the process and trial and error the process. If it doesn't work, try again, try a different way, try with your left hand, try with your foot up in the air, try and try again until you figure it out.
I love it. All right. That is our kind of rundown of chapter 3. I'm so glad that you were here to listen with us. So thankful to have you. And I can't wait to chit chat about the next chapter.
See you guys soon.